What's up, everybody? In today's podcast, we talked to Brad McDonald. And we lost the first couple of minutes of audio, so we're going to jump right into this podcast. Brad McDonald is a serial entrepreneur. He is a great business person. He's been involved in tons of businesses, from race cars to ice cream, zip lines. If you're an entrepreneur and you like serial entrepreneurs, make sure you stay all the way to the end. If you're interested in coaching, make sure you go to TroyKearns.com and sign up for a free coaching call, and we'll talk about how you can change your entire career by investing in real estate. Let's get into it.
I'm also a racer. I love cars, bikes, bicycles, motorcycles. I love it all. So I was go-kart racing at that time and really enjoyed racing. So spent a lot of time at a local speedway. Got involved with it, went to the number one guy there, and I said, what does it take to sponsor a car here? So I went and sponsored the car. I ended up working a smoking deal with Hy-Vee and our vegetable company that we were representing at the time, because I had to pay for ads. I did a bunch of trades. So we ended up making about $100,000 on the deal and got a bunch of publicity. I'm like, well, that was fun.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Right.
So now we're taking race cars and putting them in front of Hy-Vees, and we're doing commercials, and I mean.
So now your passion's kicking in.
Oh yeah, it's getting fun. So I jump wholeheartedly and buy one of the most iconic racetracks in all the world, I-70 Speedway, which has been the home of Clint Boyer. I mean, I can go Mark Martin. I mean, all of
I don't
these
know
guys.
anything about racing or anything about. I know Dale Earnhardt, and I know a guy named Noah Gragson, because I knew.
Yeah, 62. Yeah.
Well, because Noah's dad. I don't know if you know what happened to him.
Mm-mm.
So Scott Gragson is Noah's dad.
Okay.
And Scott is a racer, and he owns a lot of these speedways in Las Vegas, and he also owns a company called Switch, right? Or a large portion of that company. Don't quote me on that, guys. If you're comment if I'm completely wrong, but anyways, Scott I actually met at some fundraisers and stuff like that, and he actually ended up getting in a huge car accident, and someone died. Came out of the car, died, and he's in prison right now to this date. But his son, as you know,
this is Noah's dad.
This is Noah's dad, and the interesting thing about all of this is Noah's dad is the grandson of one of the most famous mayors in all of Las Vegas. So Scott Gragson is very piped into the local community. Right. So like, if anybody was going to get out of that jam, it was going to be him. But there was a life that was taken, and so that wasn't happening. And it was over an alcohol-related accident, and the whole thing was on the news, and this lady got decapitated, fell out of it was a pretty brutal story, but I know you're in the racing business, so I thought I'd mention that.
I did not know that. Well, he's a very colorful, he runs in the second tier series. That kid is a colorful kid, man. I mean, he gets a lot of attention. He drives hard, man.
Right?
And you're gonna hear that kid's name for a long time. Right. I can tell you right now. So that's cool. That circles around somehow or another.
Right. Small world.
It is. Well, and the racing industry is literally the worst drug in the world. I mean, there's typically never monetarily any winners, unless you make it to the very tippy top. It is, I would call it the worst. I mean, it literally, you'll do anything for the speed, right? And so jumped into the speedway business because I thought, man, if I can market this race car, well, I wonder what the hell I could do with an actual speedway.
Right.
So we were very successful with that for a while.
So you bought a speedway?
Yeah, I bought I-70 Speedway.
So where is I-70 Speedway?
It's in Odessa, Missouri. It's a mile marker 41. So 41 miles to the east on your way to St. Louis.
Got it.
From downtown Kansas City.
Right.
Did that drive every single day for, oh my God, years. So owned that for, maybe 16, 17 years. Closed it in 2008. 2009. It just, when the recession hit, all the sponsorship, everything. I mean, tracks are closing like wildfire.
Can we talk about that as a business?
Yeah, it's not a good one.
So, like, that's interesting, though. I think that's important for people who are listening right now. And if you are listening right now, make sure you give Brad some love and give him a 5-star review, and make sure you subscribe and share this video. But, Brad, I mean, a lot of times the journey of an entrepreneur, which you are, is failures and mistakes and learning from our lessons. I've certainly I don't ever get in the tow business. I can tell you that right now.
I've heard that.
Yeah. But what are the things that, so you were in the business for 17 years, and it was a hobby, passion, love.
Well, I mean, it was my full-time job. I mean, I was still involved in the food company. I'd hired a manager to oversee and run that. It leveled off, which is to be expected, but I was still involved, not day to day, and I was truly in this game, the speedway game, and I had a lot of opportunity. And that business taught me a ton. I mean, skin thick as can be. I mean, I often said, man, I could be handing out bars of gold at the entrance of this place, and people would go, not big enough, man. I mean, it's just very hard to please people that have such a passion and an opinion for what they do and what they love. So,
right.
Super hard to do. And it's just a horrific business model because you have to make payouts. You're against weather. I mean, all this stuff. But I'm in my late 20s, early 30s doing this, and I think I got the world by. And it was working. I mean, it was working.
Where's the profit centers there?
Well, it's in sponsorship. It's in really well-run events, and it's in fan base, and it's in food.
Yeah, I was gonna say concessions have to play a major.
And our per cap was through the roof. I mean, comparison to everybody else, we sold more beer, hot dogs, and that's the creative part that we could start bringing into it. I just didn't have enough capital to continually do what I wanted to do, so I started searching for naming rights opportunities.
Right.
And I had that deal done with Miller Lite, and it was a smoking deal. It's going to be a great deal. For one, the facility sits on 300 acres, so there was tons of opportunity.
So you own the facility, or did you?
No,
rent it?
I don't own it anymore.
But
no.
you did at one point in time?
Oh, owned it outright. Yes, sir.
300 acres in Sedalia, Missouri.
In Odessa, Missouri.
Odessa. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Sedalia for some other reason.
So it had a lot of opportunities. The business was good. The problem with racing is, in that track, it's the fastest weekly racetrack in America, meaning, speeds of over averaging 126 miles an hour. So when you wreck a car, and you're a local guy, and you wreck a $10,000 car or a $50,000 car, man, you might not come back. It's not like you just bent a rim or,
right.
We're going to take it back and straighten a few things out. You're buying another car, or you're clipping another car, so to run at that speedway took a lot of money, took a lot of passion, and took a lot of people if
right.
you were a race car driver.
Right.
So I started seeing that trend happening, that, man, if we don't have the next group of people that will go up this ranks, I don't have a show.
Right. So you need drivers.
Oh my God.
You need race car drivers.
And drivers bring fans, right? So, and typically the guys that have been racing for 15 years, well, their mom, dad, aunt, and uncle, they don't come watch anymore.
Right. They're tired of it.
Because I'm like, oh my gosh, she's done it. I've seen him a million times. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. But the guy who's racing for the first or second time, holy crap, man, the neighbors are coming, mom and dad are coming. I mean, there's 25 people coming with that guy.
Right.
Regardless of just everyday fans, so I created a class. I was the first one to do it. 4-cylinder, front-wheel drive, knock the windows out, and I can buy the car for $1,000 if I think you're cheating. Oh my gosh, so we built 3 of these cars. Oh, the real racers were so pissed off at me, and the officials were pissed off at me, and I'm like, if we don't get new young blood in this sport, we're all done. I mean, it's over.
Right.
So we build 3 cars, we go out and do an exhibition, and I'm like, oh my God, and everybody's kind of laughing, and I'm like, but it's actually really fun.
Right.
I mean, I'm having a blast doing it. I got $1,000 in a car. If I wad it into the wall, big deal.
Yeah, big deal.
So by the end of that year, we had 64 of these things, which meant 64 new people, so that put a lifeblood back into the speedway when things were starting to kind of, and it worked. And you saw the tier system happening. Man, they were jumping to super trucks, and it was really starting to work.
So you were essentially giving guys a car that you got together for $1,000 to try to incubate new race car drivers.
100%. Well, we were bringing people that sat in the grandstands for years that said, I can never do this, right? And they're like, now we're like, look, there's no racing parts on this car. The only thing you have to do is have a professional roll cage put in. That's it. And if you're cheating, I'm going to buy the car from you for $1,000 and auction it back off to somebody else in the grandstand. So I wouldn't put $5,000 in this car.
Right.
So it worked, and it was some of the most fun, creative stuff, and these guys loved it. And we just kept escalating after that. I started doing school bus races and trailer races, and I became basically the clown of the industry, but I was making some money back, right?
Hey.
We're starting to make money. I would have a professional race where I'd have maybe 1,500 people in the grandstands, and we're sitting there paying $60,000 for the show.
Right.
Or I can go buy 13 school buses and get Johnny Dare and all of his buddies to come out and run around, and then we'll put 5,000 people in the grandstands, and they're all drinking beer.
Right.
And so I'm like, man, I get it. This is what we need to do. So we really started to get it figured out. But man, when 2008 hit and all the sponsorship dried up, I mean, we went from hundreds of thousands of dollars in sponsorship to literally nothing. I mean, you couldn't give a billboard away because it just didn't matter. Suites were gone, all of that.
Right.
The racers didn't have enough money to keep putting into cars. So it just, I mean, speedways across the country ended up being like the drive-in theaters, you know, and it was really kind of sad. There's a resurgence now, but there's very much of a simplicity to it. I still own a couple race cars that we go play with just for fun, you know. And
You like driving fast?
oh, I love it.
So I'll take a little side note to tell you this story. So I had a Corvette that we actually got out of a foreclosure. And so it was a 2004 Corvette. And my friend came to me and she's like, hey, this guy went to prison. He left his vet. He left his Jaguar. And, you know, which one do you want? And I'm like, I want the Corvette. She's like, it's $5,000, but you got to figure out the title. And so I figured out the title. We got that handled. And I had a Corvette. And I'm not a Corvette guy. I'm not that guy who's actually, my wife drove it more than me because she was over on her mileage on her lease, which we had just met at the time. We were
honey.
Yeah. And so I gave her the Corvette. But the one thing that I like driving fast. I've had like probably, I know for sure I had 19 speeding tickets or 20 speeding tickets in Vegas in the time I've been there. And I've had a couple out here already. So I definitely, and my kids tell me I drive fast. You have a good attorney then. Yeah, I have a good attorney. Yes, that's true. And I don't advise anybody to speed. It's a bad habit of mine. But the cool thing about the Corvette was if you're familiar with Vegas, they have a circular road like the 435 called the 215. And where the 215 would hit, and where I lived at that point in time as a single guy, this is before I met my wife, and I'm driving the Corvette, and if you know where the Red Rock Casino is,
I think towards the end.
Yeah, so it's towards the end on Charleston, and from Charleston to Far Hills, where my exit was about 2 miles. So I'd punch it as fast. I had that thing up to 143 miles an hour, and I had a plan like to go off the exit. I could get it in my house in like less than 15 seconds and shut the door. And so I was I know the thrill that you're talking about. Just jamming.
Well, I need to get you like in a real race car with safety harness and belts and roll cages.
For sure, we do.
Then you can have all the fun you want, and there's no speeding tickets.
I want that.
Oh, it's good. It's. I'm telling you, you got to be careful though.
I think I bid on your zipline deal. Can we go into that business?
Oh, absolutely. Well, that kind of came from the excitement of promotions. I loved it.
Right.
I absolutely loved it. But I thought, man, what kind of business can you start that doesn't have the risk factor that the Speedway business did?
Right.
And at the time,
so you went into ziplining.
I mean, I was broke. I mean, broke.
But I'm just thinking risk in terms of like.
Well, it's about having fun, right? And
Yeah.
and then how do you get groups of people to do something where you don't have to hand out the bar of gold at the door, right? But create something that maybe's not out there, maybe exists, but maybe you can do it a little bit better. Well, at the time, there was no such thing as a zipline park in Kansas City.
Right.
And I went to a zipline park conference, and I'm like, oh my Lord, what am I doing here? I mean, I stick out like a sore thumb, dude. I mean, just
why did you stick
Dork
out?
City compared to these
Dorks.
people, right? I mean, they're all cool in their, kick-ass hiking boots and long hair and their swagger and all this, and I come bebopping in, race car guy, being a guy from Dallas, buddy up with him real quick because he kind of looks like me, but I start to notice once again, this is a passion business.
Right.
And no one's really running it like a business, right? I mean, they're building these because they're cool and we're back to nature, which, trust me, I freaking love that stuff.
Totally.
But take a look at it from a business standpoint. And I came back home and I told the kids, man, get in the car. We're going to go hit as many zip lines as we can. So we went around and hit zip lines and test drove them. By the way, I'm deathly afraid of heights, or I was.
Me too.
Deathly afraid.
Yeah.
Scared to death. Wouldn't
Yeah.
walk on second story mall. So it was kind of a personal thing as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's some fear in there facing your fears.
But that was great because I built the course with that in mind, right? Knowing that someone like me is going to walk in here, and I want them to be able to increase their ability and reduce their fear and grow throughout the whole entire thing, right? I know it sounds like a punchline, but it truly meant something.
Right.
And it's an outstanding piece of property on the Kansas River. You can see downtown Kansas City and Lawrence from the top of our tower. It's stunning.
So what kind of zip lines do you have there? How many lines do you have? How do they work out? And, what is the cost of going to that? I have obviously bid on something, so I'm going to go check it out.
Yeah. Well, I'll go with you if you want.
For sure.
I love going, man.
Yeah.
I still love going. So there's 9 lines, and then we have a line 0. So I guess you could say we have 10 lines. We start you through, and it's all dependent upon what level you want to go. If you want the full tour, then it starts from ground to ground, and that's on purpose. So you're on the ground. You're not walking up a tower or anything. You're not 70 feet in the air stuck. And it's to starting to build your confidence. And really, once you get confidence in the equipment and in the guides, then you start to build this, right? And you kind of start wanting a little bit more. Well, you go through 4 of those. And then we have you walk a 70-foot tower. I mean, you're climbing, and then all of a sudden, it changes. I mean, you're like, oh, you thought you were badass when you just did that one.
Right.
Ooh, I just went over a 65-foot gorge. This is amazing, beautiful. Oh. Then you hike up, and you're like, oh, wait a second. I'm going up that. So then we start it all over again. And by the time you leave, and I'm not going to bust the punchline here, but it finishes, so you're going to have a blast. When you finish... it's the whole 10-foot tall and bulletproof thing. And,
10 foot.
When you get done, you're like,
I think it's going to be my new slogan.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people walk. Yeah. I mean, it's really cool. You get lots of hugs. You get lots of thank yous. It's a really good business model. I mean, it's not setting the world on fire, but we have increased every single year. We don't advertise very much because we're almost at capacity all the time.
Right. So you kind of know who your audience is. I wanted to go back just on the zipline thing from a personal level. I looked at a property yesterday and I was like, and you popped in my head and I was like, I need to talk to Brad about this tomorrow. So we looked at the old Sam's Town, which is on, if you know where that is, off of Armour Road.
I think I do.
It has the big smokestack looking from 435.
Yes. Oh, the old casino.
The old casino.
Oh, God. Oh, I can't wait to hear where you're going with this.
Okay, so we were looking at it. And we're like, all right, what is the highest and best use for this property, right? Because it's on 32. I said the other day it was 11 acres, but it's actually on 32 acres. The building itself is like 100,000 square foot. You've got the parking garage is on the far side of the property. And the front of the property is on the river, and it used to be where they would actually fill up a moat to get people onto the boat because you could only gamble on the boat. And now that's since challenged. Well, the cool thing is you're going across train tracks, you're going across all these things, and I'm thinking this is a perfect zip line park.
Oh, dude, I've been on that property. I freaking love that property, and it's just sat there.
Right.
And it's like, how has somebody not done something amazing? I mean, the parking structure itself is wicked cool.
Wicked cool.
And the river, I mean, everything about it. And I drive by and I always look over, I'm like, man. So I'd love to talk to you about what you're thinking about.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll just talk about it a little bit right now. So, in fact, I met a good individual, great individual, become a friend of mine who owns the Foundation Gym here in Kansas City. He started his first gym in Lawrence, Kansas, or Manhattan, Kansas. I always confuse those two.
Amen.
And it's the Foundation, and then he did another one in Liberty, but he owns one in the Westport, and I got to know him, and I was literally going to buy a property, the YMCA up in Quality Hill, and what happened was I was like, well, I'm going to call this guy because I'm going to make my office here, and then I'll put a gym. This guy has a small gym. It'll work well. Called him. We ended up becoming friends, and then I invited him to a syndication conference in Dallas with me, and he came with me, and we got to know each other. I'm like, let's do a deal. Let's do something big while I'm in Kansas City. Let's just do something cool. And so I had been looking at that building for a long time online, but it didn't have a price. So I just assumed, which is a bad decision, and I would never advise any of my students to do this. I don't know why I did it, but I assumed that it was like going to be a $40-30 million property.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's like a $3 or $4 million property. And
on 30 acres.
On 32 acres with that structure. And so the funny thing is, yesterday we met with the guy who owns Tia Colley right across the street.
Okay.
Who's good friends with my buddy Matt.
Okay.
So we're talking event space. We're like, we need to put an event space. And I'm thinking, I'm interviewing Brad tomorrow. He's the event master. Like, he needs to be a part of this conversation in some capacity.
Oh, this would be so fun.
So Denver just shot a bunch of drone videos there, and you shall have to take a look at it. We've got total cool things. But if you're interested in exploring that conversation more offline.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'll get
Well, it's doing exactly right. You're taking something that kind of forgotten about, and you're going to make something amazing, and people are going to love it.
Well, the cool thing about this property is, so they did restricted use so that nobody would ever buy it and put a casino on there, but it is set up like it was just turned off and kept clean for the whole place. Like all the cool things that you would see in a casino are still there. So like you could literally, what's that one property in downtown where they have the parlor? So you could literally do a parlor concept with an event space. Like they have a place for outdoor concerts and stuff like that. It's just a really cool venue. Like if we got the right people involved, I would think you'd be one of them, that it could be something fantastic. And as you know, as a guy who created lots of events, like, you know, all these things you just talked about, the zip line, the speed race, the running competition, people want something to do. And if you build it, they will come. Or if somebody else built it and you retrofit it, they will come.
Yeah, that term gets used a lot, but when it's done correctly, it's true, right? I mean, it can be really true. Oh my God, my mind's going about 1,000,000 miles an hour right now, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, no,
it's the ADD part too, you know.
Oh,
so
I got
can
that.
Around,
we're good. We're lucky we're staying on track today.
Oh no, oh my gosh. So, oh yeah, my mind's going. So we also do a haunted house. I'm also already thinking that, man, what a wicked haunted house facility that would be.
For sure.
Yeah, I think we could have a lot of fun talking about it. I'd love to go visit with you and just start nonstop talk for probably 2 hours about what the possibilities could be.
Yeah, we got a great video. I'll have to.
Oh, I'd love to see it.
Once it's, we'll have to show you the raw footage so you can see.
Oh, I'll get my partner Dan involved, the zipline partner. He's got a crazy brain too. And
so, what other businesses do you currently have right now?
well, the main business is the packaged goods side of things, the heart and soul business. That's the big one. We created a premier fruit and vegetable line, and we're going on our 8th year with that. Built it on a bootstrap, created something pretty amazing, kind of a category buster, if you will. You take a very large category like fruits and vegetables, frozen fruits and vegetables. It's a given. Every grocery store's got it. You see people dumping it in there. And I was in that category for 20 years prior to that and knew it pretty well. The category started to get scrambled because Bird's Eye and Green Giant had both sold, then they had both sold again, then they had both sold again. And it just became, there wasn't a 16-ounce bag of vegetables with a price tag on it, right? And you would shop Bird's Eye, Green Giant, or private label. And
right.
It just became very value added, rice and cheeses and cauliflowers, and it just became very cluttered, and the category fell 6%, and the industry was saying, well, it fell 6% because, well, everybody's buying fresh now. That's absolutely not true. The category leaders left the category. They
right.
left the category wide open. So we created a brand called Heart and Soul, 12-ounce packaging, same price for everything in that 12-ounce category, but we did something even more amazing. At the time, I was a single dad, pretty broke, and I was in the vegetable business, and I had all of these bags of vegetables and fruits in my freezer with rubber band around them, right? I'm like, oh, I'll go back and get them. Well, then I'm throwing away half a pea. Well, my daughter likes to eat
right.
peas, let's say. My son is a corn guy, and I'm started to learn how to eat Brussels sprouts and all this. So you have this. So either everybody's going to eat Brussels sprouts,
right,
or you're going to keep halfway opening up all these bags. So we came up with this idea. Why is there not a single serve microwavable bag of veggies?
Right.
Why?
Why?
Well, I go around to ask all these co-packers, why is this, I'd like to do this. Oh, we're not going to do it. We do 16, 14, 12 ounces. That's all we do. It's outside of our wheelhouse. Everybody, doesn't matter. Europe, America, Canada, Mexico, doesn't matter.
Right.
They're not doing it. They will do it, but they're going to charge you. Line time. It's all about line time, right?
So what is line time?
Line time is how long is this machine going to run?
Right.
What can I produce out of this machine? So they charge by the tonnage. They charge by the pound. So as they're doing this, man, if they're cranking, they don't even like to do 12 ounce because it's not enough weight. So it's all about weight. It's all about time. It's all about efficiencies. And I saw a humongous hole. I'm like, okay, so how do I figure out how to make it fast? Okay. Well, we went all in, man. We went all in. Went and got an SBA loan for $1.5 million, and like, what the hell am I doing? We bought a piece of equipment, had no idea how to run the damn thing,
right.
Nothing. But it would make small bags very fast.
Right.
So built a team that could actually pull it off. We make some test runs. First one to market with this. Lots of trial and error. And we're the only ones in the world that does a single serve premium vegetable line. And so that is our claim to fame, and it's a door opener. So in the grocery business, it's
brutal business.
Cutthroat.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't matter how good your product is. It doesn't matter how many people want it. It just matter how much are you going to pay to get it into play.
Right. End caps, things
it's
like
horrible.
about
it's
placement.
Terrible. So we needed an entry into market, and that became our entry into market. Here's a category with typically 16 doors with all this and it's really starting to turn into junk.
Right.
So we came in and cleaned up the whole entire section. 1 serving, 4 servings, 2 price points with amazing products.
Right.
No added value, anything. 1 ingredient, period. So then I start scouring the world, and my mentor taught me how to do this, and it's all to Jim Kunkel. And Jim, if you're watching this, man, shout out to you. He taught me everything. Quality, quality, quality,
right.
quality. Never can replicate that. Cannot be done.
Right.
So just do it better. So the packaging. So this is where my design finally starts to kick in.
Right. So you're back to your artistic.
To see things differently. And then Mark Denton at Project 607, quickly become friends with him. We collaborate on this packaging. And it's right. Everything about it's right. 4 or 5 different generations we've gone through to make everything right. Price points right. Everything's right. Going off on a huge supply, then COVID hits, right as I make these monstrosity of contracts. Cannot go see anybody, a buyer, like my old uncle was. Cannot go see a buyer to get it into a HEB or not happening.
Yeah.
Not seeing anybody.
Zoom calls.
Oh my gosh, about put us under, about killed us.
Right. So like you have this great idea, and then something beyond your control hits.
It hits us hard.
What do you do?
Well, you're on hold for an entire year. We're on hold. So my product lifespan is about 2 years. So 1 year goes by talking to brokers, listening to other people. What do you do? What do you do? Oh, we're going to get in there. We're going to get in there. But you know what? I wasn't controlling the ship.
Yeah.
So quickly learned, it was the best thing that happened to us. We became extremely vertically integrated from distribution, manufacturing, everything. So we control every aspect of this product line now.
So when you talk about vertically integrated, let's break that down for people who don't know what that means.
Sure.
Can you break that down?
Yeah, so typically, and we'll just keep using the food business for reference. A lot of times what will happen, there'll be a great idea. They might go and raise $5 million, right?
Right.
And they'll say, here's our concept. We're going to go raise some money. This is how typical food businesses are working now. They go raise the $5 million. They go hire a bunch of rock stars, right? Typically a bunch of ego people, and they've got an idea, but they don't have a manufacturing facility. They really don't have any decent market research. They think they're onto and it's typically trendy, right? Which you don't want to typically be in the food business. I like boring categories and make them cool. Everybody else wants to jump into let's just put it this way, beef jerky right now. Everybody and their brother, you go to a food show, there's 4 million beef jerkies, right?
I love beef jerky.
4 million new kinds of, organic soda and organic this and all this. But the market share is still so very small on all of that. So this is what happens. Then they go and they find a co-packer. And a co-packer is somebody that says, I don't do a brand, but I'll manufacture your product for you. Okay? Well, now you're literally at the mercy of this co-packer. You've got $5 million invested in this company. You got a bunch of people out selling a concept that's not even a product yet, right? So the buyers are always so weary because they're like, is this thing really in production? Is it really not? We don't know. But they're going out and pre-selling this stuff. So they make a bunch of samples. They go run around and sell the crap out of this stuff so they can get distribution. They want to go get distribution, then they want to sell the company as fast as they can. That is what's happening with the food industry right now. We went completely the opposite direction, but they lose control all the way. That's why they need to sell the company fairly quickly after they get initial distribution. Because after initial distribution, it is literal babysit time. You have got to babysit that product to make sure it stays on the shelf. There are all kinds of vultures moving stuff around all the time. Shelf space is king, right? So they just want to get it out there. So this has been the business model for quite a while. So we went absolutely the opposite direction. We wanted to say we control as many factors as we can, from our artwork to our packaging to our production to our trucking to our distribution to our warehousing. So we do all of those things, which almost everybody goes and hires somebody else to do. But now you've got 4 or 5 or 6 other companies that realistically, if one of those companies falls out or can't do it, or they get a better offer to co-pack their time because they're selling blocks of time, right? Well, then your prices jump. What are you going to do? All of your stuff is with this co-packer.
Right.
You have no control. Right. No control. So we took it way slower, organically built this company, and figured all of this out. We're at the point now, I don't know if I can take it much further. Everything's proven. So we're at the point now, do we bring on outside investment? We're at that point. I think we're at a really good point. We've proven, we've had some offers on it already, so I know there's some interest. But we've built a business model that doesn't typically exist in retail grocery.
I might have somebody you need to meet.
I'd love to.
So one of my good friends and real estate investor guys is a guy named Michael O'Hegan. And Michael O'Hegan owns
Good name, though.
Yeah, he owns a business where he sells all of his product, his cookies, his salads, and we've done a whole video on it. You should check it out. I can't remember the name of his company, and I'm sorry, Michael, if you're listening right now that I don't remember the name of it, but it's a fantastic company. And
is it a distribution company?
So he makes O'Hegan. He makes, I think it's called, it's escaping me right now, but Michael O'Hegan, and he owns this huge business. So he bought an old grocery store company. But let me tell you how he's got started. So same thing happened to him. He was in real estate investing, got knocked out in 2008, and so he bought a pita bread company. And he took that pita bread company, and now he's built a huge company that supplies food for Whole Foods, for Starbucks, all across the West Coast. And he's one of those.
So he's diversified the brand. He started with pita bread, and he has now diversified
Correct.
the brand.
And now he's in the process of building it out. I've watched the whole thing with an SBA loan, and we've toured the whole property because him and I have invested on properties together and whatnot. But and if you guys want to check out that video, make sure you go and check that out. We'll put a link in the bio below. But one of the things that he's done is he has built out this grocery store, this old grocery store that went out of business, this Anchor. And so he's built all his packing facility. He spent all the big money on the dishwashers, on the Korean cardboard pallet machine. Yeah. If you saw his facility, you would drop your jaw. It is amazing. And
it's in an old grocery store.
It's in an old grocery store that he redeveloped, and now he actually has a market in there as well. So he's building out a market.
No
it's really.
Is it here in Kansas City?
It's in Las Vegas.
No kidding. Yeah, I'd love to meet him. I mean, sound like a smart dude.
Yeah, he's super smart. And they built that he built that with a Brazilian partner of his from Vegas, and they started with the pita bread company after going bust in real estate.
They're not doing Brazilian dough balls, are they?
God.
Do you know?
Let's just call him right now because we're not live. He'll answer the phone usually for me. So unless he's mad at me about something, but
there is a Brazilian dough ball company. I think it's out of Nevada.
It could be him.
trying to think of the name of them.
It's something foods. It's like, did you find it?
I suppose last name.
Ohigian.
Hello?
Hey, what's the name of your company? I can't remember.
Which one?
I know 5M Properties, the food company.
4M Properties.
Oh, sorry, 4M Properties. I know 5M though. What's the name of the
Avatar Natural Foods.
Avatar Natural Foods? I'm talking. I'm.
But Avatar depends where it is.
You writing that down?
So it's what brand's under.
So tell me really. I'm sitting with another guy who does what you do. Tell me exactly who you guys provide for and what you guys do, Michael. Real quick. You're on speakerphone, by the way.
I do all the salads on the West Coast, co-packed under Whole Foods brand.
Oh, that's good.
I import and sell all the mini croissants in the whole country, as well as donuts and cinnamon rolls to Whole Foods. I sell cookies through all the Whole Foods, all the high-end natural markets, Costco, and we do co-pack meals that go in for other companies in our freezing tunnel, and they go into like Target,
So we used to co-pack.
Costco, places like that. We do all the grab and go for all the coffee beans in town, airports, and we do pita bread and pita chips. We just got Sprouts for all our pita chips for the whole country. Our pita chips are the co-packed brand under Bristol Farms. We sell our pita bread at Whole Foods also. We do their tortilla chips, tortilla chips, and we sell to like everyone from Home Chef to sell hundreds of thousands of dollars to Home Chef. We sell all the
Is that it?
Casinos. We sell to a lot of big casinos.
Do you mind if I share your number with Brad? He's got a business. I think you guys would have a good conversation together. Oops. I guess that's a no.
Well, shoot, man, we tried. Holy smokes! So he's
the guy.
he's kicking ass. He's he's diversified like crazy. But what he
That's cool. So
that's cool. That's bad.
So
dude
I need
right
to
there.
introduce you to.
Absolutely.
And the bottom line, so we did a video going back to the podcast. So we just took a little break and called Michael, and Michael's doing big stuff. So you can see that. And but the cool thing is, like, he totally reinvented himself as well. Like, he went from being a house flipper and then getting crushed in 2008 in Las Vegas to buying with his last $150,000 to buying his pita bread company. If you could take a look at the video, we've done a whole tour of his facility and stuff like that. And you can see the podcast that we did with him. But yeah, he's a great guy. I'd love to have you out and meet him. And he's one of my good friends. We go hiking all the time when I'm in Vegas.
Well, he's removed the risk side of retail, right? So, I mean, he's working directly with the Sprouts and natural markets and all that and locking in. The percentages aren't as high, but it's fairly constant. And then he is now diversified where it's not just pita bread. I mean, that his list probably could have kept going on.
Right.
Yeah, that's jaw wide open stuff.
Well, I've seen his quality control, and he's top notch. You know what I mean? Every time I go walk through his facility, you got to put the hair thing on, the whole coveralls.
Yes, you do.
And and the other thing that he's done well, because he's an investor and a businessman just like yourself, is that he has started with the end in mind, meaning that he's bought the machinery that he can compete with the big boys.
Oh yeah, it absolutely sounds like it. No, man, I'd like to meet this guy. He's got it going on pretty good. I guarantee he's busy. So he is the exact guy that I was talking about that these companies will go to him and hire. So his whole job is he sells time on those machines.
Right.
That's what he's doing.
Right.
And he's got to make the best use of that time without as much downtime as he can. So this company over here is going to him and saying, hey, I've got a concept. And he's going to say, what's the minimum order? He is dead nuts on with what he needs.
Right.
So he needs a minimum order, and he can take them or not.
Right.
So he's in a business on the co-packing side. I'd be interested in doing that. It just doesn't. To me,
I don't think he
not
just
a lot
does that. I think that.
Well, he sounds branded too. I mean, he's got.
Yeah, they have their own line.
Yeah, he's
I
got
think
a
that
lot
you
going.
guys would really hit it off. I need to introduce you guys.
He's got some cool stuff. I mean, I was all like, man, can I get a little closer? Which one? He says that was pretty good. They're smart, man. I mean, they are wicked smart. They've had information at their fingertips the entire time, which I didn't. And so to give advice to them is different. But I think the core values is really what truly remains, right? So whether they're going to be drop shippers or get involved in real estate, or, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities where you're not clicking a 9-to-5 job. Right here's a perfect example.
Right.
Man, I was talking to him. He's like, he's already a budding entrepreneur and he just graduated.
Right.
I mean, that didn't happen back in my generation.
Right.
I mean, you looked up to an entrepreneur and you're like, oh my God, that's going to take 25
Access
years
to
to get there. I got to
information.
go and roll my sleeves up and I got to go prove myself. No, these kids are doing it
Right.
right out of the box, right?
Right.
So I guess what I would say, and I give this same advice to my kids, and I have always, it's always going to come down to your character. I mean, in all reality, I truly believe that. You know, the old adage, the golden rule, I mean, holds true. And then just don't just fall in line. You know, do something different. Be bold.
Right.
And be confident, but not to where you're running people off. You know, ask a ton of questions. I don't think mentoring is a dead thing at all. I think it's probably even more so, to tell you the truth, because these kids are, if they want to be, are sponges, and they can run. I mean, what would take me 3 years, these kids are doing in 3 months.
Right.
Right? So, and you know this very well, but it's the people you meet along the way. So when you do start putting teams together to take something to the next level, that's going to matter. And I'm not saying it in just, oh, I got to be nice because I need them. That's not, I don't think that's the point. Just be, sounds like a simple thing, but be a good person.
Right.
Have some honor. Have some discipline.
Right.
Show respect.
Right.
Ask questions. And, you know, my son, my youngest son, this kid got an offer to Harvard. I mean, this kid's super smart. Went to Mill Valley High School. I mean, I'm not talking prep school kid or anything.
Where's Mill Valley?
Mill Valley's in Shawnee, Kansas. I mean, it's standard, regular old high school, right? And this
But
kid
he got an offer to Harvard.
got an offer to Harvard.
How'd that go down?
Well, he didn't want to go. He's like, I don't think I'm going to fit in with these people. I want to go down. I want to be down in Texas. I mean, so even like with that mentality, right? Now, he went to one of the best schools in Texas, don't get me wrong, and did the finance, but always trying to tell them that you never know who you're going to re-meet along the way, or you never know who's going to say something about you. So just always kind of take a slight second before you say. And like I said, I've recently kind of fallen off that ladder again myself, and you got to get, you know, keep yourself centered, keep yourself humble.
Right.
And if people like you, then people want to do things with you and for you. And I'm not saying to take advantage of that, not at all, but be respectful, very much like what we're doing here. I mean, what a great opportunity for me, right? I mean, fantastic. Even though I thought I was going to be on a Zoom, but 25 minutes later, I did speed.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
speed.
Nobody knows. Hey, listen, you're a race car driver. We wouldn't expect anything but fishtails and.
But I think that's it, man. I really do. I mean, these kids can do anything they want, and then just have some dedication to whatever you want your craft to be.
Right.
I mean, just don't expect it and say, well, he's got it, well, then I should have it. Well, no, not necessarily. No. Work hard, be respectful, say hi to a lot of people.
Right.
I mean, in all reality.
One of the things I want to know is, like, do you feel like with that racetrack, like you should have gotten out earlier?
100%.
Right.
And it was early on, and like I told you, that place taught me a lot, and it also taught me a lot about relationships too. And I might not have handled a lot of those back then, but you know what? You can change that today. I mean, literally today.
Right.
So the mistakes, oh my gosh, I would just say, you know, and everybody says it, but I mean, you got to use both of these pretty equally, right? I mean, a passion will get us in a lot of trouble, and kind of back to what I was saying about racing. You're going to go till you just have nothing left, right? And there becomes a time where you have to be smart about something. Yet, and I think what it really comes down to, Troy, is that you got to be truthful with yourself. You can't be selling yourself something that in the back of your head you're like, but maybe if I work a little harder, if I can try. If you start that used car guy thing on yourself,
right?
Well, then, man, that's probably the point. And if you really look and you're laying in bed at night and you clear your brain, you're like, you know, this person has said something to me, and this person has said something to me, and, you know, all this is kind of starting to add up. Pulling back, moving on, changing course a little bit, back to the opportunity thing. Once you start to open yourself back up, there's the next cool thing is there if you let it. So I would say And I've fallen on that quite a bit. And when I built the zipline park, I really had to check myself a lot. I'm like, am I just doing this because I think it's freaking cool?
Right.
Or does it make decent business
You're
sense?
double checking now. You're double checking your
100%.
decisions, making sure that they line up with your heart and your brain.
Yeah. And I involve a lot of people, probably way more than I should. I ask everybody for their opinion now. I mean everybody.
Right.
Sometimes I don't like what I hear.
Right.
But you know what? I need to probably hear it. And this real estate thing is that times 1,000 for me right now.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm probably pretty good at some things. I am horrible, I think, at this. I mean, Andre's like, you might not be too bad at this thing. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, God, maybe I shouldn't have heard that, I mean, I don't know. But learning, Right. And like when you came and looked, I now remember that whole thing. I'm like, well, what did he say? I mean, I wanted to, well, it might just might not fit his needs. I'm like, okay, well, but I need to know why.
Right.
And this is right when I'm starting to really kind of figure out, wait a second, man, these are not a pain in the ass. Could be something pretty good.
Right.
I'm just not doing it. I'm not putting any effort into it at all.
Right.
And I've got a negative thought process about that place. And I'm like, well, wait a second.
That's one more.
Wait, why?
That's one more thing I think we should dig into. Like, mindset matters so much. Like, we were talking about this the other day on one of my coaching calls. We have a coaching program for people who are trying to get into real estate, and one of the guys was saying, I'm not having success. I don't like making these calls, and I said, but if you change that mindset, talk to yourself as I get to make these calls, I get to make money. I get to do these things. I get to wake up in the morning and go for a run. I get to read this book. I get to learn all those versus I have to.
Boy, man, I think you're on it right there big time. It's the whole what you put out's what you're going to get back, right?
Right. What about network? Let's talk a little bit about that. How important is the people that you surround yourself?
Well, I think it's the key to everything. I'm the guy who loves getting things started, but I am also crappy at spreadsheet. I know where my weaknesses are, bad.
Right.
And good, right? So, I mean, I personally, first and foremost, I got to like you.
Right.
I got to also understand that you got to know I'm kind of neurotic and weird and all over the place, and you got to be okay with that.
Right.
And finding these people, once you build a team that I know everybody says it, but when truly on the same page, going in the same direction, man, it's hard to stop a group. And it doesn't matter if it's 2 people, 1 people, 3 people, 1 person that's bringing in. As long as that passion and that movement and that same thought mentalities, I mean, that's really realistically what my job is to do something, build an idea or service or product or something, and then create people with passion. The zipline business really taught me that, right? So here we are. We have 43 employees at the zipline park.
Wow.
Right? And these people are amazing.
Right.
Right? I mean, and then the energy just flows out of that place. And you surround yourself with these people. Well, we're now starting to take some of those people that have these and saying, hey, here's a few other things that we're doing. Hey, come over here and let's start. We want to start because they already know our mindset. They already understand our direction. They understand our way of thinking. It's kind of a beautiful building block that we didn't even know we had of these and they're all young people. Some people kind of come through and it's a part-time job and that's fine. But man, there are some that really get it. And we've created a culture there that it's expanded. And so I think that's pretty important to do. Man, it's hard to lose when you got a bunch of cohesive thought going in one direction.
So it sounds like to me, this is where my head is going, is that your old $1,000 race cars was your ecosystem for feeding your track, and now your zip line is your ecosystem for feeding your other businesses.
It really kind of is. I mean, keep it simple, man, and and I don't care what it is, man. I'm a beyond simple guy. I mean, I have plywood countertops in my house. I mean, I'm the lowest paid employee in every one of the companies I have.
What's up with the plywood countertops?
Well, it's when the food company. Something happens big with the food company, I actually get to put countertops in the house. I don't know what it is. It's just something that I've done back when I was raising the kids and we were broke.
Yeah.
I mean, we remodeled the house ourselves. We bought everything on Craigslist, and it's a humbling place for me. I love it. I mean, it's not a big house. It's nothing. It is on a lake, and I have woods, and I can see the moon and the sunset from there.
Where do you live?
I live in Black Swan Estates.
Yeah, nice. Where's Black Swan?
It's right on the Shawnee-Wyandotte County line. It'd be like, and we're right next to Lake Quivira, which everybody knows, but it's a little tiny version. It's a little cool, little hippie kind of community, and I didn't even have a lock on my door for the first 6 years I lived there.
Really?
For one, we couldn't afford to put the lock on, but we actually got to where we got a lock. But I mean, I still have the plywood countertops that I cut out with the jigsaw that I still have today.
So you're not afraid of getting your hands dirty?
Oh no, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, we did that whole house. For one, out of necessity, I couldn't afford to do it.
Right.
And for two, man, it created a lot of cool memories, man. I mean, going and buying claw tubs in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, out of a barn, and secondhand windows and plywood out of Joplin. And I mean, we made a lot of kick-ass cool trips.
Yeah.
That I got a lot of memories that we put that thing together. Now, will I ever be able to sell it? Oh, shit, probably not. But I don't have any desire. My kids, like, whenever you leave, it's mine. So I mean,
your kids love the house too.
Oh God, they do. They love it. Yeah.
So kind of to wrap things up, what would be one piece of advice that you would tell somebody who's out there listening, who's thinking about doing something new, who's thinking about quitting their job? You haven't had a job in some time, it sounds like.
I worked at Slotsky's in Lubbock, Texas. That was my last.
What year was that?
1980, no, 89.
So it's been a while.
Yeah.
So people, and I don't think you're probably going to go back to Schlotzsky's or anything like that.
I do love it. I'm a keto guy, so I take the bun off, but I eat the centers out of it. Yeah.
But in terms of a job, you're not going to be waiting.
Probably not. No.
So for people who are looking to, really live that entrepreneur lifestyle, what advice would you give them?
For one, I mean, you're going to have an interest and somewhat of a love affair with what you're doing. You know, the old adage of, well, if you go to work every day and you love it, does it really work? I mean, there is some truth to that, right? So have something that you enjoy. I mean, so there's got to be an interest, right? So you want to do it. So you might as well make money doing something that you want to do. I know this all sounds very simple, but then really, truly find some mentors. I mean, that's it. Go find people that are really good at what you want to do. And I told my daughter this, amazing tattoo artist, up-and-coming tattoo artist. You go find the best tattoo artist that has his best business running, and you go tell him you'll do anything. It doesn't matter. You don't even have to pay me. You go sweep floors. You go and you listen. Right. And you listen. And you listen.
Soak it up.
That kid did that. And I'm so proud of her. I can't see her. God dang, Barry, crack a tear. But dead serious.
Crack a few.
She's done it, man. And so she's a perfect example of like what I'm talking about.
Right.
Don't be so proud. Don't think you can do it right off the bat. Have a passion. Go learn. And it doesn't need to take you 5 years. It might take you. But that's how you're going to get opportunity. You're going to get trust in somebody that's already doing it that will give you an opportunity.
Right.
But just to go out there and willy-nilly, and I watched 3 YouTube videos, I'm going to be able to. I'm going to start flipping houses.
I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
I'm going to go borrow money from everybody and do this. Oof.
Yeah, that's it. That's
man. Go get some real life education and do what you like doing, man. And talk to as many people doing it well as you can. Go shake hands. Do not be embarrassed to say, "Man, I really don't know what I'm doing."
Right.
You probably get it all the time when somebody actually legitimately cares about what you're doing. You're like, "Man, I don't mind. I'll talk to you for 2 hours."
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, I really can't, hammer that advice home. Even now today, it's all about vernacular. As you know, any different industry that you're getting in is all understanding like what people are talking about. And if you don't know, you got to ask.
Yeah, and it's okay to talk. I mean, it's okay to actually shake somebody's hand. I mean, it's
It is.
okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's
okay to make eye contact, Brad. It's okay to not look at your phone the whole time.
I know it sounds very old school, but maybe some old school stuff is fine to keep involved in the way we're going at such a fast pace right now.
Right.
And the world's changing by the second right now. So, and take a little bit of a risk and have confidence in yourself, but not a cocky confidence. You know, I mean, be proud of what you're doing.
That's it.
And it'll show.
That's right.
I don't know. I've been doing more mentoring, not even because I've been asking about it, but I mean, I thoroughly enjoy it. I mean, finally 54 years of life might be starting to pay off a little tiny bit, and it's fun, and I love watching people succeed. That Raytown place, I was going to sell it to a kid. I mean, I'm talking about going into business with him and doing a storage unit now. I mean, I love the kid to death. He's 27 years old, but he's a hell of a great guy, man.
Right.
What a cool opportunity.
That's great. I'm glad you're having so much success. I really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing like your story.
I thank you too, my friend. This has been fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. You guys, give Brad some love. Give him a 5-star review. He poured his heart and soul into that, and definitely, you know, follow his advice. You know, look up, make connections, find mentors. If you don't have one, go introduce yourself to them. You've got more access to anybody than you'll ever have. But don't just ask what can they do for you. Ask what can you do for them. And I think that's you know, one of the things that I get all the time, especially on social media, is like people coming to me and saying, "Hey, I need help." It's like, I don't know you from Adam. And even if you were Adam and I knew you, like, I probably wouldn't help you just because you're asking for help. It's like, and I'm not interested in meeting you for a cup of coffee.
Come to the table with something.
Come to the table with something. Come to the table with something important. Brad, it was a pleasure having you as a guest on this show.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you. How do people follow you? How do they follow your journey? Are you on the socials?
Oh, my Lord. Well, I'm kind of.
Okay.
I mean, the businesses are.
All right. Well, what are the businesses' socials?
So heartandsoulharvest.com is the website for the food business, and we're on Facebook under Heart and Soul. ZipKC.com, and then we're on all of that, and you can just plug that in. KC Timber Challenge, Exiled Haunted Houses. Those are the ones that are most active on social media, and you can just search those and come up, and you got to go to the haunted house too. It's wicked.
Sweet.
It's
wicked. I love haunted houses. I want to get the, you know what, scared out of me. Guys, thank you for tuning into the podcast. Make sure you share this video with a friend. Make sure you share the podcast with a friend. And make sure you subscribe. And let us know what you think about Brad by giving him a 5-star review. We'll check you on the next one. Peace.